We are now recording our session. Warning, warning, recording.
Welcome everyone to Interdisciplinary Learning Integrating Content. This is our 201. So hopefully those of you that are in here have some experience with integrating their content and are really ready to take that to that next level. As a reminder, we are recording this session so that people can watch it later on. Our focus for our Pro Grow Day today is to look at how can we purposefully integrate technology to enhance student learning, right? So it's using that technology to really benefit and take our student learning to that next level as well. You have the link to the bit.ly on the bottom there. It's also in the course catalog, and it has some resource slides, a few things summed up for you that you can use. And we're going to be referencing some of that a little bit later on. And this is a very quick 40-minute session. So Aaron, we just have to pay attention to that time and make sure that you stop at that time. And we're going to jump right in. We've been welcoming you as you come in. We noticed that we have a lot of first grade here. We do have fourth grade. Was there another grade level that I was missing?
Wait, Kimberly is in fifth grade. Is that correct, Kimberly? Did I get that right? Or fourth?
I'm in fourth
Fourth grade.
grade.
Fourth
Fourth
grade.
grade. Fabulous. So welcome everybody. And I am Megan Power. I am a teacher at Design 39 campus. And my co-facilitator is
Erin Harms. I teach fifth grade at Chaparral.
wonderful.
Currently from the office in my house, virtually.
She's virtual, and I am on campus in the morning and virtual in the afternoon. So
Yeah.
bit of both worlds, right? All right, so in this very short, quick course, we are really looking to take your integration from whatever level that you are at and help you to increase it and take that integration to that next level. Really turning your benchmark into even more integrated and exciting learning for students, helping them to connect a lot more with that content. And as we know with integration, it really starts with small changes, right? There's many entry points into integration. You don't just have to completely leap across that street or throw everything away that you've been doing. You can take what you've been working on and just start making small little connections and small little changes. And that starts you off integrating. And what you find, and Aaron, I'm sure you're the same just from all our conversations, is the more I integrated as I started, the more I saw the benefit to it. And then the more I wanted to integrate, and it just was this whole snowball effect. Did that happen with you too, Aaron?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. One thing just leads into the other and it can get it really is exciting. This is good stuff for us to be doing.
It is exciting. So yes, remember, it just starts with those small changes, right? How can you make some of these connections to your literacy and science? And then those connections, you start to make more and more and more connections, and then it starts to really mesh together. So this is what we're really looking for, is this whole like integrated learning, because life is integrated, right? If you're going to be cooking, you are bringing in science, social studies, right? You're bringing in math, you're bringing in all this together. So life is integrated, and we want to make as much learning integrated as possible for our students, because it does increase their learning, helps them make those connections, and it helps to increase their learning. And it's really exciting. It makes it even more engaging and fun, right, Erin, where they don't want to leave school.
Yeah, really. They're like, "Can we just get a little bit more, please?" My kids are loving the whole Native Americans and we'll talk about how we're putting the literacy skill. They don't even realize that they're getting benchmark because they're enjoying the content so much, you know. So it's really been fun.
Yeah. So as I'm looking to integrate, and I know Aaron does the same thing, is we're looking at that content, and then you need to look at it from a bunch of different angles. So this is just a quick clip that's pretty creative, but it helps to show. So you notice it's the giraffes, right? You're looking at it from this perspective and you see the giraffes. And then as you shift and you look at it from a different perspective, you see that elephant. So as you're integrating and you're looking at your curriculum and your content, it's really helpful to just kind of pause for a bit, a moment, and start like creatively looking at that from a bunch of different angles and find where these connections could be made. So keep that in mind as you're planning and working on integrating. And then the important part, Erin, you want to talk about this iceberg?
Yeah, icebergs, it's always the bottom is so much bigger than what we see at the top. Um, Titanic showed that to us. The bottom is all of those foundational skills, all those literary skills that they're getting in benchmark that create that foundation for everything else that they're learning. So if they don't have all those literacy skills, then all of these other things are going to be more difficult for them in geography and history, math and civics, and all of this as they go on through school. But by showing them that we have, everything is built upon. So if you're really, really strong in these, we can apply them to every area.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's not about separating social studies with literacy. It's they need to be working together. They coexist.
Right.
So I'm going to show you a few ideas just to inspire you of some possibilities. Remember, there's many different entry points into integrating and taking your integration to the next level. But I think it's always helpful to really be inspired and get some different ideas that you might be able to apply. This was some fourth graders at our school. They were looking at the regions of California. That was that social studies standard. And these are a few student projects. We have a group of students over here, and this just happened during COVID time, that created this big giant cardboard map with 3D elements of the different regions and different places to visit around California. We had students that created digital maps, like virtual field trip type of thing, that went through the different regions and gave information about the regions. We had these students over here made a entire puzzle and had QR codes that went to them explaining and sharing about the different regions of California and what to do there. And this top one over here, I wish if I had time to, maybe we'll link these up to our resource slides, Erin,
That'd be great.
because that is takes you to a website that three girls made. They took the idea of wonder, how it's written as the different perspectives, and they made this as a blog road trip, where it's all three of their different perspectives of what they did during the same road trip. So it's pretty cool. So those are some student samples. Now the learning that came out of that was absolutely incredible. And the design, as we were planning and designing this, we're bringing all these components together. So that social studies piece is obviously the regions of California. The literacy standards that came in here, there was a lot of nonfiction, right? Being able to point out, find main ideas and the key details. They were able to compare and contrast different regions of California. So a lot of that information and reading that nonfiction text. So there were a lot of skills they were working on there. The social studies, I think, is a pretty obvious one, so I'm not going to go too in depth in that one. In science, we brought in within the different regions, what was the plant like? What is the plant, the environment like? What is the plants, the animals? What is the climate? Why is that climate like that, and how does that affect the environment and the animals living there? Oh, one other piece with social studies to bring out is we also tied in the natives within these different regions, so bringing in that element as well. Math, we had students as they're creating this trip, they had to calculate money wise, mileage wise, and be able to kind of incorporate some of that math in there. Math was a little bit, wasn't as much. As you see, some of the arts, the collaboration, creativity, communication. So working on all of these skills and doing that within this project and this unit of study. So that's one quick fourth grade example. I can go much more in depth with that one. But that would take a really long time, Erin, because I would love to tell every detail about it.
I know. We should just do it on Road Trip California.
We're going to shift over. This is a second grade example from last year, looking at Cinderella around the world. So comparing and contrasting stories, right? The folk tales and or the fairy tales, and students were reading the different versions, right? Picking out the story elements, understanding the sequence of the story, being able to compare and contrast the different stories. And as they were reading stories, the fiction stories, they were researching and learning about that different part in the country, right? So as they read the Cinderella story from China, they were learning about China. The picture on the bottom over there is students Zooming with some people in India after they had just read the Cinderella story with India. And they did a lot of research on it, and students had choice. Some of them researched and they looked at the food in all the different locations that we read the stories on, and then they compared and contrasted the food in the different locations. So it was a nice mix of this fiction and nonfiction, and really working on these literacy skills, bringing in the arts and learning. We connected with the music teacher, and students were learning some different songs and dances from different parts of the world. And then that technology element, right? So putting them on, we were able to get some access to VR. And I know we do have VR in the district, that if you're interested in it, you just let our tech team know, and I'm sure they can help you get your hands on it.
Yeah.
But being able to actually go and look around and go and experience the different countries. So a lot of learning experiences there. Again, tying in, taking that Cinderella around the world, and bringing in what are all those literacy concepts that I just shared about, right? That social studies, where's the science piece that's involved in there? How do we connect globally? Where the arts, and how can we work on that collaboration, communication, creativity, right? And then that SEL, the SEL is important and embedded within here. So
Mhm.
these are two just quick examples, hopefully to inspire you on how to look and think and look at stuff from a different angle, and start looking at different entry points and how you can kind of start integrating and combining some of that curriculum. And then we'll go to Erin to give our third grade Kumeyaay example.
Yes. So if that the idea of all that came from planning, right? So you've got to go through, that's the ideas we'll get to soon, is that what goes into even getting to that step. How did you get to all of those components to Cinderella, you know, around the world? What about the how did you get there? So we're going to talk about the planning that got there. Um, there are kind of two approaches, and it will depend on what your school, what the direction of your school is. Your principals might require you to do a certain way. So when I look at benchmark, especially in fifth grade, the first unit is the Constitution. Um, that throws me for a loop immediately because I teach social studies as like a timeline, linear. And so I'm not ready to start with the Constitution. I'm ready to start with Native Americans. That's where I want to start with. And so as I talk to other teachers, yes, we want to work that, but benchmark, the resources in them sometimes don't necessarily align to what I'm teaching in social studies at that time. So the text that they have in the first one is that Constitution, the Revolution, all of that, the Declaration of Independence. I can use that text at another time, but I would like to find my social studies that I'm currently studying and use that in my benchmark and apply that to my skills and strategies. Um, and it's not going to happen all the time. Sometimes their text is really applicable, and sometimes it's not. But mostly this is about not adding something to it, but just finding something that can meet more parameters or be more purposeful than the text that they gave you. Can we find a way to make it more purposeful and connected to the other things that the children are teaching? So, an example to show you, one of them is going to be, you're going to be following the benchmark themes and the essential questions. You go from unit one, unit two, you keep going through here, and you would then, like I said, take that text if it doesn't apply to your social studies or science, whatever it is that you want to integrate, or both, then go find another resource to use. And so now you're plopping it into benchmark, but you're following those same essential questions. We also found essential questions who really can apply to any of your social studies standards. If creatively, you can make a connection through all of them. Um, so if the idea of Cinderella, if that all came like a really, really big idea, the second option is that your spotlight is on your social studies standard, or your spotlight is on your science standard, whichever one you want to do, or both. I'll use social studies as an example. So if I'm using a timeline or a linear approach to teaching social studies and I want to start with Native Americans, I'm going to show you an example of both, but you could focus on the standard, the social studies standard, and then go look at what those skills and strategies for benchmark wants us to teach in that first unit and then apply those to my social studies curriculum. But your school site's going to tell you what it is that you're able to do or what kind of licenses you have to do. I'm going to show you on this next slide.
And real quickly, Erin, just to
Mhm.
make sure that you can integrate both ways, right? So
Yes,
there's
there's no wrong way. There's just you in order for you to move on and make a plan, you need to know where you are. You know, am I sticking in this book or am I going to my social studies standards and using those as the spotlight? Where's the spotlight? And then you can start planning on that integration. This is a great example. This is third grade. These are the literacy and informational standards focus for benchmark. So you can see identifying key details and determining main idea, cause and effect. We have compare and contrast in here. Megan and I were looking at the benchmark skills and strategies and how many times these skills and strategies repeat themselves throughout the units.
you want to
Uh,
go share that in
yeah, it's
book?
really a
Interesting.
fantastic thing to see because some of them are way more uh, prevalent than the others. So you can see here this is in fifth grade, so because I teach fifth grade. And what I did was I went through and I took all the numbers of times that they tell us to do, analyze authors, evidence, and sources. So you can see that that is mentioned. Get rid of this little picture here. 12 times in benchmark. Okay, and then when we go over here to look at this one, compare and contrast, that 19 times. So that is one of those things that you can really do in every single lesson that you're doing. The identifying key details and determining main idea, that shows up 25 times. So in every lesson, you can be doing that. Integrating information from several texts, you can see that that shows up 12 times. And then you have these other things that show up once. Um, can you believe determining theme shows up one time? Quoting accurately from a text when drawing inferences that shows up one time. And so some of these things are repeated way more often than the others, and you can apply them to all of your lessons because you can see they are repeated, they're cycled every single unit. All right, so let me go ahead and pull that slide back up here.
I'm actually going to take over that way I
Oh,
can.
thank you. That'd be
Very
great.
good.
So, so these are those skills, and you can see those repeated ones. The main idea and key details. That one was one that was repeated many, many, many times. Cause and effect is repeated many times. The compare and contrast is repeated many, many times. Now, within those literary and informational standards, if we look at the social studies standard for third grade, there's if our focus might be the Native American, we're going to describe the American Indian nations in their local region long ago and in recent past. Well, the overarching idea for benchmark is government for the people. So you can see that the social studies aligns with that so well because where do we learn our government from? We learned it from our past civilizations and from the Native Americans. So what a great opportunity to bring in your social studies and hit all of those little literacy components with something that can be really purposeful and take the most advantage of your time. You want to add anything to that, Megan? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it. It's
Okay.
looking at those literacy skills, right? And looking at that content and how can you really make them kind of work together.
Yeah. And really kind of take your mind out. I feel like if benchmark when we first got it felt really kind of restrictive and like I couldn't go out, like I really needed to use the text in there. And like I said, some of the text is great, but I felt like I was missing opportunities in other disciplines that I could have been integrating with my benchmark. And some of those resources could have done a better job than the ones than benchmark provided. Um, so here's an example for approach A. This would be I'm following benchmark. I'm going unit 1 through 10, and I'm going to take social studies and I'm going to insert it into my benchmark. So this is approach A. The idea is that you take all of these benchmark skills and strategies. I wrote them all here for you for this unit 5 with the literary and information or standards focus. And then over here, you can see the social studies standard. So if you're doing benchmark, then you're not necessarily going to be teaching your social studies in a linear fashion. If you can figure out a way to do that, that'd be awesome. It might be more difficult to do that. But since this unit is about government, I would go into my social studies and I would find the standards that have to do with government and Native Americans. And so that's what we did here. Students draw from historical and community resources to organize the sequence of local historical events and describe how each period of settlement left its mark on the land. So in this one, for this third grade, Unit 5 is actually about innovation. And you can see how Native Americans would absolutely integrate with an innovation a unit on innovation because they innovated. They did more than adapt. They innovated, and what a great opportunity to show how those Native Americans innovated. Now, the reading that they give you in benchmark is about inventors, which I thought was interesting, which is great. Okay, we have inventors, but that's not necessarily all that innovating is. Innovating is not just I'm going to invent something like the cotton mill. Innovation was trying to make something work for you, changing it so that it betters you. And so you can see how that really can apply to so many different areas other than just literacy and just social studies. So the social studies standards that that essential question runs to or meets with third grade, unit 5, is what is the value of innovation? So I highlighted all of these standards in the social studies that could absolutely help and support those. Okay. Approach B. So I know this page is a little cluttered, but it was really hard to try and get a visual representation of what was happening. This was the most exciting thing for me because I love Kumeyaay. Third grade Kumeyaay is just so much fun. And you start with the Native Americans and then you move into the colonial times and and move in through the state, and so it's like this, you're starting small and you're growing in your community, and that's how our standards grow anyway from grade K to 5. We start out in our little community and then we grow bigger. So this one is the innovation still, but innovation over adaptation. So I took the essential question, which was, again, if we go back to the other one, the other slide.
This one?
Yeah, what is the value of innovation? This social studies standard, this is where I would be teaching because I'm teaching in a linear fashion. Students would describe the American Indian nations in their local regions long ago and in recent past. So these are the standards I'm focusing on. And then I would go and I take all those benchmark skills and strategies for that time of year or for that unit, and I would plop them into my social studies. So I would take maybe these two creation stories. I have the Native American creation story here and then another creation story. What could we do with those two creation stories? Well, we can do word study. We can find context clues to figure out words. We can work on our fluency. We can find all of our grammar. We can identify key ideas. So you can see that using these other resources, they are learning about their social studies, but then they're also getting the literacy skills and they're making the connection between finding main ideas and key details. I can find them in other places than English, than language. So now it's social studies with language integrated. It's not social studies time and language time. So I think that was the biggest idea that we wanted to get across.
Yes, thank you, Erin. So this is one of the resources that you have access to on the slides. We just wanted to this you'd have to dig into your benchmark to be able to find these, and we found this to be very helpful since we have a lot of first grade in here. I'll click and go to first grade, ignore all my millions of tabs.
Right.
But we have what it does is it takes the different units for each grade level, and it breaks it down into the different weeks. What are the stories? What are the reading concepts? How is it connected to next gen, to science, and how is it connected to social studies? So that is a resource that can be there to help you as you're doing your planning. And then back to this. And then the next one that we wanted to share with you, and this is where we're going to take the rest of the time together, is this set of resources. So as you're integrating with Benchmark, remember we just kind of distinguished two different approaches that we were able to identify, and both approaches work. There's no right way and wrong way. It depends on your school, your team, and what makes sense for you and your curriculum and grade level. So approach one, again, is you're with both of them, you're following the themes and the sequence of Benchmark. So just to be clear, with both, you're following those. With approach one, you're looking to see if they're talking about government in that first section, that first unit, then you're looking at your social studies and diving and combining government in there. With approach two, you are teaching the science and social studies in that more linear fashion, that timeline fashion, like Erin was mentioning. You're still teaching that benchmark within that sequence, but you have to look creatively to see when you're teaching US Constitution, what is the theme and what is the focus and essential question in benchmark at that time, and then how can you apply it in, and it works. So Erin and I
Yeah.
went through many different grade levels with many random topics that you wouldn't think. That's why we picked Kumeyaay. We looked through third grade Kumeyaay. We can fit Kumeyaay into every single unit in
Hmm.
benchmark. So we have these year-long planning, and these actually were inspired by somebody on our call right now, the great Mrs. Heil. So you're
Thank you, Mrs. Heil. Look what
our
we're sharing your
exploration
resources.
teachers have actually, we had an exploration teacher in our last session, and they've been doing a lot of work this year with combining and looking to see how they can integrate the benchmark units of study and the science and social studies and social emotional learning. That's all found on Canvas. So if you go and look, they've been creating a wonderful amount of content for you. But these documents can bring you to something that you can plan out the different units of study. But what we want to focus on is these 201 planning sheets. So when you click on that, it's going to make a copy slowly.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to notice that the Cinderella around the world and the California road trip came from a brain dump like this, came from a planning session like this. So it's to think about it as putting all those pieces together. You really have to see everything together, which I think that's why these forms are so helpful.
Absolutely, Erin. Thank you. And this is what I do, and I know this is what Erin does when we are looking at content and looking to see where we can integrate. Because remember, it's not about adding more to the plate; it's about looking to see where you can combine and where you can kind of blend together. So this is one place, one type of planning document that might be helpful for you, where you can put in that unit. What is the social studies or science topic you're typically teaching during that time of the year, or which one are you fits in and is aligned to that unit? What is that essential question? And then over here is where you can list the literacy skills and the social studies or science concepts, because those should be in the forefront, right? It's about student learning and increasing student learning. So we should always have, what are those outcomes? What are those skills and concepts that we're really wanting to make sure our students build and understand and get? And then this is my favorite part, Erin. This is
I
this
know.
brain
Yeah.
dump you were talking about. This is where we're like taking ideas, like, throwing up against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah,
So
like what if we went on a virtual field trip? What if we went and did this? What if we did like a play? And then like not all of those things have to happen, but for you to be able to get all that out and then see what really sticks in
mhm.
the end is it's fun and it's fun to do with your team.
Absolutely. So looking and seeing, what are some of those literacy skills and what can we do with literacy? If you're needing to work on informational writing, you can be adding in, oh, this is a great place where we can be working on informational writing with the US Constitution, or the road trip, or whatever your content is.
That's right.
How can you bring in science? And even when you're doing social studies topic, there's science that could be related to that. And
Yeah, one of an idea was we were doing recently with my fifth grade is so fun because we're doing creation stories with Native Americans, and so they're talking about the creation of the sun and the creation of the moon. Oh, what a great opportunity! And we're going to go into, well, what's the phenomenon of the moon? Let's talk about the cycles of the moon. And so it all made okay. They're talking about the moon, the creation of the moon. This is how the cycle of the moon works, and you've gone and put all those pieces together. They really have enjoyed that so much.
absolutely. And it all starts with that planning,
Hmm.
that purposeful and thoughtful planning, right? So doing this brain jump, and you might have boxes where maybe there's nothing in there, and that's okay. But this is an opportunity for you to throw down some different ideas, some different concepts, and really look at it from that different angle, just like we saw in the beginning, the giraffe to the elephant. And
Hmm.
look, and this is where then you can start seeing connections being made, um, and more learning that's going to be happening for students. And then down over here on this planning doc is where you can put what are the stories or the text in that unit, that benchmark unit. And then some of those stories and or many of them might work great and they might be really helpful for teaching that content, and some of them might not. So where might you substitute out that text? You're still working on those same literacy skills, so you're still working on that, identifying main idea or comparing and contrasting, whatever those skills are. But what text could you substitute out, to be able to connect more with science and social studies? And then just a place for other resources. So this is, a planning document that might be helpful for many of you to, be able to use as you are trying to take your integrated content, right to that next level. So, Erin, anything you want to add before we jump out to some breakout rooms?
No, it's great. I think that this will be a good opportunity for, we have so many first grade teachers in here, for you guys can really just have fun and not feel like you're committed to doing anything on that planning sheet, but just kind of have fun and put things on there and enjoy the process of trying to find ways to make it all kind of go together and make this nice little cohesive, purposeful, idea or unit and lesson.
Yeah, so you can choose during this breakout time to just have conversations around those certain areas on the document, or you can go ahead and start, plugging away and brainstorming some different ideas. So we are
That's
going
right.
to send them off to breakout rooms, right, Erin?
Yes, that's right. So I have Samantha, Shalini, and Taylor, all in first grade. Paul and Bernardo, are you guys, what grade level are you interested in joining? Fourth for Bernardo, thank you. That would be great. I'm going to open all of the rooms up. Go ahead and join. It should automatically allow you to. Fourth grade for, okay, and, oop, did I just, that was Paul. Paul, what grade level are you in? Oh, I put Paul in four, and I don't think he's supposed to. Can you go get him out of there?
Hi,
Yes.
Megan.
Hey,
Hi, Bernardo.
Good to see
Okay.
you.
how are you?
Yeah,
I saw
good,
your name
good.
pop up and I went, oh.
I know. I miss you.
I miss you too. I heard you're doing such great things over there though, so that's good. Oh, he disappeared.
Oh, Brandy, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go, Brandy?
I want to stay right.
Besides
I want to stay right here and chat with you guys.
professional.
Well, that was quick.
I
I'm
know, right? The time is like
way.
40 minutes flies. You know
Yeah,
that.
I think we talk too much, Bernardo. That's
I
what.
know. I know. So, Megan, what we were talking about in our groups was integrating also. Have you heard of Studies Weekly for social studies and science? It's a great resource. I was sharing it with Paul, and the kids love it because we're integrating our benchmark or our correlate with that too. So I love it.
Oh,
Fabulous.
wow.
I'm actually part of the pilot, and that's the first one that we are piloting next month or in February next week.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
Oh, I'm jealous. That'll be fun.
Yeah, so it's cool because we get to also pick. Like they told us, you don't have to go with the alignment with benchmarks. So I'm just
Mhm.
kind of picking ones that I feel like, kind of like you talked about, that are more relevant to um, the theme or even just the standards, even like if it's a writing standard, if I feel like it's going to go better with that one. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
excited
because
about it.
yeah, that's awesome because we've incorporated like Native Americans with that, learning about, with our core lit as well, and California history. So it's amazing. It's nice and self-paced as well.
Great.
The kids really like the studies weekly. So when you pilot it, you'll see the activities are phenomenal. The kids just love it. So it's a fun way for us. I was just telling Paul, like, we look through it every day and make sure we know what they're doing for the assignment that we're putting on our playlist, and we, read the articles or whatever, but they're so engaged in it. It's amazing. So
How fun. I'm going to check that out.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we always need those resources, right? And what a great
Mhm.
place to go, if you are one of those people who has to stick to the benchmark curriculum and the pacing, to be able to just go, okay, well, this article or this text in the benchmark doesn't necessarily meet all of the purposes or the things that I want to be hitting. I have, and what I got from Brandy was you have the permission to go out and get something else that meets more of your purposes, that hits all of those points. You're not stuck with what you've given and what you're given, and if those things in benchmark apply, that's terrific, but you have an opportunity to go out and really branch out and really make these really well-rounded lessons that really incorporate everything. And that's the great big version of it. But starting out small, if you're not doing that yet, there's so many opportunities. It really can make learning so much more fun for the kids, especially, it's not a secret. The kids are not loving benchmark that much. Not crazy about it. Is that news to you? Okay. Um, Mine don't. Um, some of them they do, and then some of them they're like, ooh. So I just, finding something that's more, we need them engaged. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe that's all we get out of it, is that we just find something that's more engaging for them, to get them involved and to see how these literacy skills can connect to every part of their life, um, everywhere, not just while we're doing language, not just when we're doing ELA, but in every area of our study we use these literacy skills. I think that's what we would like to get across.
I really like benchmark. Fourth grade, and I know every grade's different, but I think the fourth grade articles are amazing. There's a few stories that we've thrown out because we're like, this is just not interesting at all to the kids, or it's way above
Right.
what they can understand. But we've also found Storyworks, and I'm sure everybody's heard of Storyworks, but we've been
Mhm.
incorporating Storyworks a ton in our upper grades, third, fourth, and fifth.
Yeah.
And we switch off between Storyworks and benchmark, and it's been like
Mhm.
the perfect medium to just include high interest reading, but still be able to stay on the same standards and concepts as benchmark. So.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to be integrating. Of course.
And
It's a
then
great idea.
and then taking that, what you have, because you definitely have some great integration happening. How do you take that even further? Right? What
Mhm.
other pieces, what other components can you, not necessarily, I'm going to say add, but not necessarily, but that can go in there, not to add
Yeah.
to the plate, but to really make more of those connections. So
Well,
Mhm.
and that really moves on to, this whole continuum of integration. Transdisciplinary is beyond interdisciplinary. Transdisciplinary is like that problem-based thinking where they come up with the question, and then, they find the connection between all those disciplines, and how great we're not making those connections for them, but they go make those connections. And so that would be the next big step, is that'd be a transformation, which could be very overwhelming, especially this time of year with what you're already going through. Um, so we hope that you got something valuable from this. We enjoyed hearing what you guys are doing. And Megan and I have just had a lot of fun going through this gigantor topic of integration and trying to find something that we can approach within 40 minutes. So thank you for that. And enjoy the rest of your day. I think we're at our time here. We want to be valuable of your time. So thanks so much.
enjoy
We
your,
appreciate
Thank you
you.
for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Enjoy.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
Megan, are you
coming.
still at D39?
yes.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yep.
Good.
Andy, are you at D39 too?
I was at D39, but I moved to Exploration 2 years
Mhm.
ago.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, because I know you were my son's exploration.
Away, today is just learning about the different resources that teachers are providing. So, I mean, I've already written down a few that I'm definitely going to be incorporating in my classroom on Monday, and
Yeah.
it's
Isn't that great?
that's all it is,
Yeah.
So listening to what other teachers are doing.
Valuable part. I think for all of us, that's been the most valuable part is just sharing different resources. And then we're really fortunate. Our fourth grade team, Bernardo's on my team. We're super, super tight with collaboration. So we just pour our ideas in, and it's
That's
been like
wonderful.
Yeah.
year for us. And I can't even say enough how important
Absolutely.
collaboration is.
We can all agree.
Thank you for all your ideas.
Yeah, thank you, Megan and
Thank
Erin.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Yes.
Enjoy your
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you. Have a good rest of your
Thank
day
you.
today.
Thank
All
you.
right. Bye.
Thank you, Brandy.
Yes, thanks, Brandy.